Hi, I'm Christy Rost. When it's chilly outside, I love to turn on the oven and bake something that fills our home with the fragrance of cinnamon and spice. Today, I'm baking an autumn harvest apple pie with a crust so flaky it melts in your mouth. And wait until you taste my ginger snaps. Welcome to At Home with Christy Rost. So I'll start with the pastry for the autumn harvest apple pie. I have 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. To that I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of sugar and a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to process this just briefly, just to mix. So just pulse your machine. Then I have 3/4 cup of ice cold butter. This is unsalted butter. If you use salted butter, then reduce the amount of salt you put in here. Rather than 1 teaspoon, just use a 1/2 teaspoon. So I always make sure my butter is ice cold. It was my grandmother who taught me how to make pastry. And she taught me about the fact that the butter needs to be really, really cold. And that's because as it mixes into the flour, it doesn't totally get blended in, but you should have flecks of butter that you can still see. And that helps you to have a very flaky pastry. So I'm just pulsing this in so I can watch to see. I want pea-sized pieces of butter when I'm finished, which I now have. So then I'm going to add some ice water. Now this is going to be a 2-crust pie, so I'm going to use a little more ice water than you might think for a 1 crust. So that's 1, 2, 3. Remember, you can add more, but it's hard to take it out. 4, 5. Let's start with 5 and see what it looks like. Okay. Yep. I'm going to add in 2 more. 6 and 7. Now, if the day is very dry, you may find you need even a little extra water. See, it gets real mealy. Boy, can I smell the butter. Oh! I'm going to feel this. It feels a bit dry to me. See, it wasn't coming together super quickly, and that kind of lets me know, kind of dry here today, Christy. So we're just going to add in not quite an extra tablespoon of water. And pulse this again. At this point, it should start chasing itself and begin to form a ball. And there you go. So you don't want to over-process this, but oh, it feels perfect. And when you do pastry often enough, you get to know what it should feel like. So I just remove all of this from the food processor. And I have a pastry cloth here. And that was another trick from my grandmother. Thank you, Henrietta, was a pastry cloth. And I put a little bit of flour on it already, but I'll add a little more because I'm going to bring the pastry together. And I can see flecks of butter in here. Oh, this is going to be lovely. This is the kind of pastry that doesn't fall apart when you're working with it. It has plenty of moisture in it, but not too much. It's just going to be perfect. Okay, then I'm going to cut this almost in half. Just be not quite 2/3, 1/3, but just a little bit past half. This is the larger piece that'll be on the bottom. This is the smaller piece that'll be for the top crust. I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap, stick it in the fridge, and chill it for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then roll it out. So we'll take a quick break, and I'll roll that out for you. So my pastry is chilled, and I have my pastry cloth here, and I just sprinkle it with some flour and roll out the pastry. And because this has a little sock, see the sock on my pastry cloth? Or my rolling pin, it comes with the pastry cloth. And therefore, I don't end up with, wow, everything's in the way. I don't end up with the pastry sticking to my rolling pin. And then I always keep a little bit of flour handy so I can just refresh the rolling pin a bit and roll this out. There we go. Now some people like to use a French rolling pin, the kind that doesn't have the handles, it's just one piece. And I have used those, but if you have arthritis in your hands, you'll probably find the old-fashioned kind of pin works better for you because it's less stressful on the wrists. So I have a 10-inch pie plate here. So every now and then you take your pie plate and you see how your pastry is fitting. And you can figure out where you need to roll it a little more on one side, but maybe not on the other side. I love doing this. I find it very therapeutic to roll pastry. In fact, I find it very therapeutic just to bake. There's something relaxing, especially if I'm by myself, it's quiet in the house, then it's especially nice for me. Now, I can tell the thickness of pastry by feeling it, but that comes from years of experience. Just take a peek every now and then like this and see how your pastry is. You don't want it too thin, but you also don't want it real thick. Okay, then watch this. So easy to work with. There's no dry pastry in this house. And fit it into the pie shell like this. Super. Okay. And if it doesn't fit just right, that's okay because it's a double crust pie and we can take care of that in a little while. So I'm just going to fit it in, take my finger and just kind of go around in there. And then we can fill it with the apples after we roll out the other piece. So this is going to be the top, the top right here. And I'll just put a little bit on my rolling pin. I don't put too much on the pastry itself. I prefer to do most of the flouring either on the pastry cloth or on the rolling pin so I don't dry out the pastry by adding flour and flour and flour. I can hardly wait to mix all the spices in with these apples. It's going to be so yummy to just even stand here smelling it. And again, take a look, see how big your pie pastry is because you need it to come over the top. And I can feel it. It could be a little thinner up here and right there. All righty. And this one, I'm just going to fold that and move it to the side. There we go. Okay, apples. These are the Cosmic Crisp apples. They are super sweet. They're crisp. They're so juicy. And in a pie, they bake beautifully. So, season my apples. I have some sugar. I'm going to add in some Saigon cinnamon, which is extremely fragrant. A tablespoon and a half of flour. That will help to thicken the juices. I'm going to add in some nutmeg. And I like to grate my own, so I always use a whole nutmeg. And just put your microplane right across the top of the bowl. And then take your nutmeg and just run it across. So there's the nutmeg. And I stir this up. Beautiful. Boy, does that smell good. Smells like fall. Smells like winter. Smells like holidays. You want to keep this recipe on hand for the upcoming holiday season. And I sprinkle this over these gorgeous apples. And I'll take a spatula. Oh, look at this one. It has pumpkins all over it. So cute. This is another one of the Tavola ones. This one says, "Hello, pumpkin." And they're so cute. I like having different ones. They make me smile, whether it's by color or by theme like this. They just make me smile. Then I'm going to add some fresh lemon juice. So I have a half a lemon and a reamer. This is called a reamer. Put it right in the middle and just twist. The lemon juice just kind of brightens up the flavors of the pie. And again, just stir like this to mix this really well. Nice thing about the Cosmic Crisp apples too is if you find that you have to dash off for just a little bit and then come back to finish up making the recipe, they won't turn brown. Now I love that. So now I have my pie shell and I'm going to put in all the apples. And again, this is a 10-inch pie. So if you have a 9-inch, which is fairly standard in most kitchens, you'll have extra pastry. You may drop back one apple for your filling. And get all that good sugar and cinnamon and spice there right on top. If it's in the bottom of the bowl, it should be in the pie. And arrange your apples a little bit like that to kind of even it out. Whoops, come back. And you too. I kind of talk to my food, but you probably have figured that out already. Ooh, pretty. Okay, that's good. Let me wipe this off. Then I have my pastry. And I can put that on top. I'm a little shy on that side, so I'm going to add just a little there. And unfold it. See how beautifully supple this pastry is. It's so easy to handle. And then I'm going to start folding this over, just like this. And just kind of tuck it in a little bit as you do that. If you have a piece that's just kind of hanging, like here, just take a little knife, not one that's sharp, and remove that to keep it fairly even. Well, I can't say this is my very best pastry I ever made in my life in terms of how it looks, but we'll fix that. And I have preheated my oven to 375. Okay, now let's make it look pretty. So I'm going to flute the edge, just like this. I just love the feel of the pastry between my fingers. is so soft. It's just something very comforting about it. Okay. Then I'm going to get a sharp knife and just poke a few holes in. I like to do it in a leaf pattern or a twig pattern. And make a quick egg wash. Take 1 egg and whip that up with a fork. Add, one of these has water in them. I'll grab some water. Add about a teaspoon of water. And that's called an egg wash. Then use a pastry brush. I have this cute one from Brabantia that I really love. I love the color. It looks very fallish. And brush that over the pastry. That will help the pastry to brown so that it's nice and golden when you take it out of the oven. It'll look so pretty. And I'll bake this pie for about 45 to 50 minutes until it's bubbly inside. You'll be able to hear it. And then you'll know that the apples are getting nice and soft. And the final touch is just a little bit of sparkling sugar, or you can use granulated sugar, and just sprinkle that over the pie. And that gives it that fresh from the bakery look. It's ready for the oven. Cosmic Crisp apples are a cross between Enterprise and Honeycrisp varieties, which makes this non-GMO apple extra juicy and beautifully crisp. Sweet and naturally slow to brown, I love them for snacking, baking, cooking, salads, and charcuterie boards. I'm proud to have Cosmic Crisp as a sponsor of At Home with Christy Rost. I have loved ginger snaps since I was a little kid, so now I make my own. I don't have to buy them anymore. So I have 3/4 cup of unsalted butter here that's soft, and I'm going to add in some granulated sugar and let that cream for several minutes until it gets nice and fluffy. I'm also adding in some dark brown sugar. I like dark brown sugar. Both of these are 1/2 cups. I like dark brown sugar because it adds more of a caramel kind of flavor to the cookie. You get that deep, rich flavor out of it. And then after those have mixed really well, it's really, really fluffy, then I added an egg. So I'm going to stop the mixer for a moment and scrape down the sides to make sure I get all of the butter down in there along with the sugar so they can all do their thing. Turn that around a little so I can reach back here. This is definitely the kind of thing I do on a fall and winter day. When my kids were young and in elementary and middle and high school, very often I baked cookies once a week. And they'd walk in the door and right away they'd go, "I smell cookies." And they head right for the kitchen because they knew that there was something really yummy there waiting for them. And sure enough, it's like, yes, today I baked this kind. So I've been doing cookies a long, long time. And I love the smiles. And there's nothing like kids. When kids have the chance to have some homemade cookies and they go, "Oh, I smell cookies." Of course, my husband Randy does his part too. Now I've added 1 egg to this, and I'm going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla. And then I have some molasses. I have a 1/4 cup of molasses. I'll add this in as well. I think I'll stop the mixer completely so I don't make a real mess. And I have a little spatula here. Oh, so cute, it's one of the teeny tiny Tavolos. So here goes my molasses. So right now I'm using all the autumn colors for all of the Tavolo things and the Brabantia things. So I like to change my accessories depending on the season. Put this back down, and I am using a paddle for this one because this batter it gets kind of thick and heavy. Then in the meantime, I have my flour. I'll let that mix, and I'm adding 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. This will result in a cookie that is a little bit crispy on the exterior and nice and soft on the interior. Have some baking soda, just a smidge of baking powder, about a ½ teaspoon of salt. Wow, cloves. You can smell that one coming. Saigon cinnamon, very robust kind of flavor, and a teaspoon of ginger. Stir these together until they're well mixed. Okay. Then I'm going to take a moment to transfer the butter mixture to this bowl, and I'll stir in the flour, and that way you can see what I'm doing. So we'll take a quick break for that. So I transferred this so you can see this is the creamed mixture here with the molasses in it, and I love to stir my flour mixture into it by hand. And I do it for 2 reasons. One, it's just super relaxing to do this. I mean, wow, you know, I can just stand here and listen to music and really relax and all. The other and more important reason is it makes the cookie dough much more tender because I'm not overworking the dough when I'm doing it with a spoon versus a mixer that can really run away with it, and all of a sudden you think, why are these cookies never really like Christy's? And it may be because you're overworking the dough with a machine. Not to mention though, I mean, I agree that a mixer really helps and it saves on the wrists, but this is how I love to do my cookies. And I've been known for my cookies as long as I can remember. So just gonna mix this together. And once I get this all pulled together, then I'll take 2 spoons and I will form dough into my hands with the spoons and just roll them and put them on the cookie tray. So I'm going to finish mixing this together, and I'll see you in a minute.
It was one of those peak moments in life.
The olive oil and caviar tasting was life-changing.
Our guests can go ashore and immerse themselves in some of these little out-of-the-way places.
Atlas spoiled us.
Yeah, they did.
So I'm using 2 spoons to form my cookie dough. And you can use a scooper if you like, but this has always worked well for me. I'm gonna move this over here. And again, it's just, everybody has their own way of doing things in the kitchen that work really well for them. And they go, no, I don't want to use that, or I don't want to do that. This is how I like to do it. And I've been doing this since I was about 12, so it's hard to break a habit at this age. So these ginger snaps will get a nice crinkled top on them, which I love, which is very traditional for a ginger snap cookie. And then I like to sprinkle them with just a little bit of sugar on the very top, though you don't have to. And they bake at 350 degrees, and let me see how many minutes on that, for about 11 to 12 minutes. So this is a great cookie for after school, or taking in a lunchbox to work, or to take a little plate of cookies down the street to a neighbor. I'm famous for showing up with cookies when someone's just sort of having a tough time, a plate of cookies just seems to help a lot. I always like to have cookies on hand for our delivery drivers as well. They take very good care of me. And because they bring me a package and I give them cookies. So they're happy. And so it's, yeah, I think cookies are a gift. They're a gift to your family. They're a gift to people you can think of that you can give some. And you know, you can have a whole batch of cookies and give away a dozen and you still have cookies. And it brings a smile for somebody. And that's kind of awfully nice. So I'm going to just finish this up, pop these in the oven. They will bake for 11 to 12 minutes. On my oven, it takes 11. They will get nice and puffy, and then they will drop down and they'll be nice and flat and gorgeous and so soft. So we'll be back. Thanks for joining me today on At Home with Christy Rost, where great food, beautiful wines, and hospitality are a tradition. I'd love to hear from you, so please connect with me on my Instagram and Facebook pages. You'll find today's recipe for the apple pie and the ginger snaps on my ChristyRost.com website. Special thanks to our friends at Melissa's Produce and Brabantia. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Atlas Ocean Voyages, Cosmic Crisp Apples, Michael David Winery, Tovolo, Viking Culinary Cookware, Water and Wines Puzzles, Little Bear Honey, Salt Seasons, and Tip Tech. See you next time.